don't bother me.
And welcome to Let Them Talk. Sorry for a slightly rocky start, but we're here on our first show of the new year. Welcome. We've been here 2 years going on, and we've had just the most wonderful experiences here on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, Channel 56, where we can be heard every Tuesday at 8 p.m. So we hope to see you for yet another year, joining Joni Musi and myself, Paul DiRienzo, on Let Them Talk. With that said, we'd like to take a moment to introduce our guest, Gail Archer, who comes here with, I have it down here, I mean, I couldn't remember all the amazing things that Gail has achieved. She's a professional organist, a music teacher, educator, but beyond that...
she's had an incredible year in 2007.
Right, it's just been a big year.
With
her
a
album,
Grammy nomination.
Yeah, and here's her CD, Mystic in the Making by Gail Archer. And, you know, we have to, it's hard to describe organ music.
Very hard, I agree.
You have to hear it, and I'm going to take a moment maybe to play a clip or two after, but let's introduce first and talk a little bit because...
You're welcome. Thank you for coming.
My great pleasure.
Currently the chair of the music department at Barnard College.
Absolutely.
Columbia University, director of the Young Artist Series at Central Synagogue, artist director of the Lunchtime Organ Recitals at Historic Central Synagogue.
Which we had one today.
Wonderful. Organ faculty at the Manhattan School of Music, and most recently appointed as college organist at Vassar College. So that's a tremendous...
Tell us what that means.
College organist at
yeah.
Vassar. There are two splendid organs at Vassar.
Oh, they have two.
Two. There's a 4-manual instrument in their chapel, which was built by Gress Miles in the 1960s, and they've just restored that. Foley Baker restored the entire organ, which means they took it down, they cleaned it, they re-leathered it, they did a tremendous amount of work. And then there's a new organ built in 2003 by Paul Fritz, a wonderful American builder from Seattle. He specializes in building Baroque-style instruments. So the instrument has 2 keyboards and 35 great German draw pulls, just as one would find in the 18th century. And the organ is tuned in 18th century temperament. It's blood-red case and gold gilt, just an extraordinary modern instrument, but built in 18th century style in the recital hall. So it's very exciting to be college organist at Vassar.
And can they achieve that type of sound in a modern instrument that they would have 300 years ago?
Absolutely. And Paul Fritz went to Europe and studied extensively the instruments that are still there. There are many 17th and 18th century instruments.
Now, I spoke to a friend of mine who studied organ, and he told me that while 2 violins are somewhat different, 2 organs are completely different.
Completely different. Absolutely right.
And I thought that was so interesting because you think of any instrument as sort of the same. Like
if you're going to play a piano or you're going to play a... Right. But it's not the same. Every instrument has some special attribute. It may have more stops, or it may have more keyboards, or the pedal board is not the same. Mm-hmm. Some places you'll have an absolutely flat to the floor pedal board, which is traditional German Dutch pedal board from the 17th century, and then later instruments will have a concave pedal board, which the instrument at Heavenly Rest this Sunday does have a concave pedal board. That came into fashion in the late 19th century, and many instruments in this country in the 20th century have a concave pedal board. So you're physically dealing with a different set of expectations physically. Sometimes the pedal board is much wider in one place or much narrower in another, and you're constantly physically adjusting to each individual instrument. And you may not have all the stops on one instrument that you had on another instrument, so you have to adjust the registration, the actual sound of the instrument from instrument to instrument. So there's always something to learn when you get there.
Well, how did the great organ composers, how did they, when they wrote their music, plan for such big differences? Wouldn't they want a certain sound and then they would get a different sound?
Well, they might, but in the old days, most composers did not give any indication about registration. It's very rare in Bach to find any kind of registration. He might say organo pleno, which simply means have a full sound, the full organ playing, but not specifically what stops to choose. So organists know from the instruments that he and his contemporaries played on what was available. So
let's go back one step, because maybe explain for folks who are new to organ music
Sure.
what a registration and what a stop are.
Absolutely. When you get to the keyboard, there are the keys themselves, 2, 3, 4, or more
Like
keyboards.
a multiple piano.
Multiple
sort of,
piano,
yeah.
exactly, much larger. And then there are draw pulls, a kind of a knob with a shaft on the end of it. In the case of the old German organs, you would pull a big knob and a shaft out, and that opens up a channel in the chest of the organ that allows the air from the bellows to rush through to a particular row, what we call a rank of pipes. And there are a mouth on the pipe, an aperture, and the air rushes through the pipe and engages that row of pipes. So the art of playing the organ is to decide which ranks of pipes you want to engage at that moment that will serve the needs of the music. And of course that gets more complicated as the instrument gets larger because there are more choices and more permutations and combinations.
Let's take a large, a mega cathedral organ
Exactly.
with all those beautiful pipes. How many pipes would an organ like that have?
5,000 to 8,000 pipes.
5,000 to 8,000 pipes. How do they maintain all those pipes?
Regularly.
Big maintenance job.
It is,
Right.
and there are typically persons engaged by each individual church. There are artisans, people who are organ builders, who will go into a church, say, 4 times a year and tune and maintain the organ. If there's some sort of damage, if there, God forbid, there should be a leak in the ceiling of the church, it happens. The roof of the church leaks, and then work has to be done on the organ. So the organ this coming Sunday at the Church of the Heavenly Rest has 8,000 pipes.
8,000.
Now let's talk a little
pipes.
bit about the concert series, because
Right.
it's all free. We want people to know about it because you can go and actually hear this
Right.
amazing music.
Students, senior citizens, every
Everybody.
New Yorker is welcomed, and that I want to underline particularly.
And it's a series of 6 concerts, and it's all celebrating one composer, which we'll talk some more about
Right.
him too, Olivier
Messiaen.
Messiaen. And each concert is going to take place in a different church in Manhattan with a different organ, which is why I wanted to talk about the differences. So,
Right.
so Gail has chosen each piece specifically for the location. Is that correct? And
That's-
the organ
that's
on that
right.
site.
Well, there are the 6 churches. Church of the Heavenly Rest is where I'm starting, Fifth
Right,
Avenue,
that's this Sunday,
90th
4 p.m.
at 4 p.m. The 6 organs all have something in common. They all have 4 keyboards at least. They all have a very wide variety of choices of the ranks of the pipes, many, many choices, because Olivier Messiaen's organ at the Church of the Trinité in Paris is a very large instrument. And he, to answer your earlier question, he used that particular instrument to choose the sounds that he wanted. Unlike Bach, Messiaen is one of the most specific composers.
Exactly how it is.
He tells the organist what he wants. I want a trumpet stop here. I want a clarinet stop here. I want flute stops here. I want principal stops here. And there are very specific directions in the music.
Right.
So I may not have exactly the same stops that he had on his instrument in Paris, but the job of the organist today is to synthesize, to get as close a sound as you can. And we know because we have the instruments.
Well, you mentioned synthesize,
Synthesizing,
and I'm thinking of synthesizers.
No.
And this day of loops where people go and there's their little digital keyboard and it says clarinet and this and that.
Right,
on it.
exactly.
This is the old way,
That's not
the
how
old
this
world.
organ
This is
works.
this is the old way. There actually is a rank of pipes. There are 4 categories of stops. You have principal stops, which really sound like the strings of the New York Philharmonic. It's a very stringy diapason's another word. Then there are another category of stops that are reeds, trumpets, clarion, oboe, and
So you
those.
have a whole orchestra at your command.
Absolutely,
At that keyboard.
absolutely.
And this is 300 years ago.
Well,
technology.
the technology is
Yeah.
the old
This composer is actually contemporary.
contemporary composer. So he's
Right.
responding to the great symphonic organs in Paris
Well,
in
let's
the
play
19th
some. We have to
century.
play some
Absolutely, that would be
To the
wonderful.
show, and we need to actually hear what we're talking
And I'll
about.
just, while you're setting that up, I'll just repeat that the first concert in the series is this Sunday, January 13th at 4 p.m. at the Church of the Heavenly Rest, 2 East 90th Street at 5th Avenue, and it's free.
Well, that was quite a performance. That's Gail Archer playing on her CD, A Mystic in the Making. It's a CD that has been nominated for a Grammy-Award, and I can see why.
And this is the composer that you'll be playing
Yes, I'm going to be playing.
in this concert
The
series.
concert on Sunday is going to be the first of this 6th series, but the piece I'm playing is the Nativity of the Lord, and I'm particularly playing that piece right now because in the Christian calendar this is Christmas tide, the several weeks after Christmas. This past Sunday was Epiphany in the Christian calendar, so the Christian church is still celebrating the birth of the Lord, and the last movement is Dieu parmi nous, God with us. So there are 9 sections of the piece, and the piece is meant to be an homage to the Virgin Mary, the figure of the Virgin Mary as Mother of Christ. So each of the movements tells the Christmas story as a narrative, but it's a musical narrative. There are no words. So the movement about the Magi, we're talking about Epiphany this last Sunday, it literally has groups of 3 chords as if the camels, dum, 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 as if the camels were coming along over the deserts just to see the figure of Christ in the manger with the star over him. So Christ manifest. So the particular piece you were listening to there comes from the Ascension, and I'm going to play that piece on the 2nd concert.
Okay, great.
Oh, that's going to be in
The piece that you heard on the recording, though,
Right.
that one is going to be played on the 2nd concert down at First Presbyterian Church.
That's Sunday, February 3rd.
February
To get
3rd.
the schedule, you need to go to Gail's website. So
Right.
that's gailarcher.com. And you'll see the whole schedule there.
GAILARCHER.com, Gail Archer. And
I'd like to talk a little bit
we
more.
were getting a call, so if that person, if you have a little,
Okay.
let's give it a shot. I can't promise anything. You're on.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, great. How are you?
Great.
Welcome to the show. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yes, I was wondering why you studied music. How did you first start playing the organ specifically?
Oh, I've never been without music. I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't sing. I started singing as soon as I was walking, I'm told, by my family, and started playing piano at age 7 and sang in church choirs from the time I was 8. So I've been making music all my life.
Oh, lovely. And your sexuality, are you like men or women? AIS.
Does
Thank
it
you,
matter?
Paula.
And does it matter?
Well, that was a nice question with a strange twist to it.
Right.
Where did you study music?
And where did I
Finish
where
the
I study
actual
where
questions.
did I study music? I actually played organ at Franklin Lakes United Methodist Church in New Jersey and had many piano students. I paid my way through school at Montclair State University, and
Oh,
I'm
great.
very proud of that. And they know that. They started me out in life because tuition was affordable in those days, and I was able to practice and live at home and just grow by going to the state universities. They really provide a splendid
How did you
education.
practice at home? Did you have an organ?
Yes, I always had an electronic organ at home and also played at church. I have a digital organ.
You don't, right, I was going
I
to say,
have
you
a
don't
dig-
have
no,
any
I-
aversion to the modern technology.
Not at all. I have a digital organ at home that has the ability to program the stops. I have headphones so that I don't bother my neighbors at 2 in the morning. Absolutely.
Right.
I'd
Well-
like to talk a little bit more about the composer because
Yes.
he's an interesting figure, and obviously since this is his centennial
Yes.
and he has some significance, there's a reason why you chose his
Ab-
work to do such a series.
Absolutely.
So he's a French composer, and he only died in 92.
That's right.
So he's a 20th century composer.
Absolutely. But he's coming out of a great tradition of 19th century French organ playing. César Franck comes to mind immediately. And after that, Widor and Vierne and Duruflé in the 20th century and Jean Alain in the 20th century. Great French composer, organist. And Messiaen studied at the Conservatoire in Paris from the time he was 11 years old. He was
wow.
a prodigy and composed organ music throughout his life. What attracts me to the music is the Gregorian chant. He studied ancient music and incorporates the traditional music of the Roman Catholic Church, but he adds his study of Eastern mysticism. He was interested in Hindu rhythms and the melodies of Eastern music.
And also ornithology.
Absolutely. Birds, he traveled all over the world and recorded bird song and took it down in notation and then added that into the music. So it's this extraordinary synthesis of Western mysticism, Eastern mysticism, and the natural world. Interestingly, he was also interested in architecture and painting, and he cites Marc Chagall as his favorite artist, and he played in many wonderful spaces where there were Chagall windows in the museums or in the churches where he played. And so when I was looking for cover art for this CD, we looked among the works of Marc Chagall, and I found the angel that's on the cover of the CD.
Sure, I'll try and show it here. I don't know who will be lucky enough
Now,
to
the
do
other
it.
thing I thought was interesting was that in the U.S. bicentennial, he was commissioned by Alice Tully to write a piece.
Yes.
And he ended up being extremely inspired by the Bryce Canyon in Utah,
Yes.
which Paul and I had visited.
Oh yeah, he is a synthesite, right? Is that the word?
Yes, he's able to see
Also,
colors.
right.
Yes, he hears music. He describes this in great detail, that he was able to see color when he heard sounds, and he associated color and sound, and that makes perfect sense for an organist, because we're always talking about the color of the particular rank of pipes, the
That's
musical,
amazing.
TAM in the sense of T-I-M.
It's called
to him, those
synesthesia.
5,000,
Synesthesia.
those 5,000. Say that again. I'm sorry. It was
Synesthesia. is the word.
synesthesia.
It's a neurological condition, really.
Right.
But for him, it was a tremendous
A gift,
advantage.
right,
It
yeah.
was a gift.
5,000 pipes are like 5,000 crayons in the biggest Crayola box ever created.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. That's a wonderful description,
I work
actually.
with Crayola boxes every day, so.
Well, the deepest part of my soul, I'm always a music teacher. So the idea of creativity from little ones, that one never stops
so
learning,
wonderful.
that one never stops learning. It's very much a
In
part
the
of
last
this
3
art.
minutes of the show, you're opening up a whole area that I could spend a half hour.
I'm
talking
sure I
about,
could
because
too.
I'm fascinated about how your approach to music education and talking about that.
Absolutely.
And we obviously don't have a lot of
No,
time.
no, no. But I just feel that the work I do in these various colleges is a way to open up a window onto classical music for young people and get them to be concert goers and persons who can appreciate and walk in and purchase CDs and listen to it and enrich their lives forever by learning
Classical
about
music
this.
doesn't just mean old music. I
No,
mean, I think
not at all.
that's the interesting thing.
Contemporary
People are
music.
still composing classical music.
Absolutely, and I
And beautiful.
underline that there are living composers. My history courses in the second semester include living composers, and particularly New York area composers. I want them to be aware that it's a living art.
Well, for folks who can't get to Barnard or to Vassar, you can listen to this incredible music from organist Gail Archer. She's playing 6 programs this spring, starting this Sunday, January 13th. They're all free.
That's right.
January 13th, it'll be at the Church of the Heavenly Rest, which is at 2 East 90th Street, which is at 90th Street and 5th Avenue, and that's at 4 p.m. And Sunday, February 3rd, it'll be in the Village at the First Presbyterian Church, 12 West 12th Street, which is at 5th Avenue, and that's also at 4 p.m. These are absolutely free, and you can learn more and find out about the other
The whole
programs.
schedule.
Right, the whole schedule's at gailarcher.com, GAILARCHER, gailarcher.com, and to find out more about these programs and more about Gail's work and see some great, which we could not show you, but go to the website and see some great photographs of what these large organs look like and what Gail looks like. I'm looking at it right now. What she looks like playing them with her hands on these ranks upon ranks
Now,
of
one of the
keyboards.
things also that Marty told me was that in some cases you need assistance to play
Very
the
much
organ.
so, and in this case I will. I'll have someone turning pages and occasionally pulling some of the stops. There are many pistons on an organ which allows me to program the sounds that I want. But at some times one's hands are so busy that you actually need a registrant. And on those old organs I mentioned at the top of the half an hour, there are no pistons, so you must have somebody helping you pull stops and
Wow.
change things
So-
from section to section in the piece when you want different choices
So
for
you're
sounds.
almost, an organist is almost also like a A conductor.
Very much so. And I have a degree in conducting. I conduct the choirs at Columbia University, so I'm always working with my hands conducting choirs.
So I hope we'll see you this Sunday.
It would be
4
wonderful.
p.m., Heavenly Rest at the Church of the Heavenly Rest, 2 East 90th Street. Thank you so much, Gail.
Oh, it's been my
Thank you.
great pleasure
really
to join
enjoyed
you.
having you.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed
It was a
being
great
here.
show. Thank you. Yeah, we had a great show.
Wonderful.
Great time.
Thanks so
I
much.
really enjoyed learning